knackered timber, and failed coatings put most homeowners and many professionals off decking work. In this special episode, Paul shows how to restore a wooden deck properly, step by step. The day begins in Ilkley, where Paul starts work on a large hardwood deck. It's an exotic timber and preparation matters if the finish is going to last. By the afternoon, he's in Leeds tackling a grooved softwood deck. But before anything else can happen, it needs stripping back to bare wood. Then come the banana skins, one after another, and the plan for getting finished on time goes out the window. With the schedule torpedoed and plenty still to do in Ilkley, Paul calls on Henry to help get things back on track.
My name's Paul Driver and I'm the owner of JetReady. We're known for exterior cleaning and restoration services, and we do a great deal of decking. And here we are in Ilkley again, and today I'm working on a double decker. That's to say that I'm starting work on restoring two different decks. The first job is this lovely hardwood deck. It's made from balau, which is an exotic hardwood sourced from Southeast Asia. And later today I'll be heading over to Cookridge in North Leeds, where I'm going to start work on restoring a small softwood deck. Now both jobs are going to take 2 visits to complete. Today is going to be a cleaning day, so it's a wet visit, shall we say. And then when everything's dried out, I'll be back to do the sanding and the oiling. And this balau decking has certainly seen better days. It's gone very grey, silver in colour, and that's caused by UV damage. And we can see that the homeowner has had a go cleaning this themselves with a portable pressure washer. It's a bit of a mess, to be honest. When restoring decking, I usually work to a 5-step plan. Step 1, I'm going to give the whole area a light pressure wash. That'll get rid of any surface grime and dirt and give us a better idea of what we're dealing with. That initial jet washing will do a fairly good job of cleaning the area, but we'll probably find that there's quite a lot of underlying staining, which brings us on to step 2, applying various chemical treatments to deepen the clean and to also lighten and brighten the wood. Step 3 is to deal with any repairs that might be needed. This deck overall is in pretty good condition actually, but these planters have seen better days. For step 4, I'm going to sand the whole area in readiness for the application of the oil. Sanding opens up the grain and makes the wood really porous, so it can really soak up the maximum amount of oil. And that's the difference between a DIY job and a professional job. To give you an example, you wouldn't find a self-respecting professional decorator painting straight over knackered old wood. He would always rub it down first and provide the best possible base for the paint. And professional wood care for exterior decking surfaces is no different. Which brings us lastly on to step 5, and that's to apply a high quality penetrating decking oil to the whole area. Not just this decking, but also these steps that lead up to the balcony. There's a lot to do. Let's get started. Right, this deck is looking a lot cleaner now. There will, however, be residual staining and quite a lot of organic matter still on the surface. And that's why we move on to step 2, where we're going to apply some deck clean chemicals to really give it a deep clean and also to lighten and brighten the wood. And the product I'm going to be using is called Deck Clean Pro from a company called Pure Seal. This is a trade-only professional product and it's absolutely remarkable stuff. And it comes in 2 bottles. You've got a part A and a part B. You mix them both together at the time of use. And what I'm going to do now is apply the Deck Clean Pro evenly over the whole area. Important to bear in mind though, if using a sprayer, it's important that you do not use an atomising nozzle. You want plenty of fluid to go evenly over the area. So this is interesting. Just like I said earlier, no self-respecting professional decorator would paint woodwork without rubbing it down first. Look at this guy up on the roof. Excuse me, why are you rubbing it down?
So that the paint can stick on it and it won't peel off.
All right.
Yeah, and it also needs a lot of work as well.
Yeah.
I've got a torch up here, so I've just took all the paint.
So you burnt the paint off first and now you're rubbing it down to even it out, eh? You always do that on woodwork, always rub it down?
Yeah.
Prepare it properly?
Every woodwork, yeah.
Cool.
And then bits like this, harder bits, you've got a little more attention into it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Key. Preparation, eh?
That's it, you've got to take pride in that part.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't prepare right, then the paint's not going to be right, is it?
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah.
Thanks very much. Well, this area that's in the sun is starting to dry out and I don't really want that to happen. So I'm just going to mist this down with a little bit of water just to keep that chemical reaction running for a little bit longer. Well, that's all looking pretty good. What I'm going to do now is pressure wash it all again and that'll get rid of any loose dirt and grime that has been softened up by the Deck Clean Pro. Well, look at that, looking pretty amazing. And this colour now, with it being wet, this is indicative of what it's going to look like once it's all oiled down. So with that done, off to the next job. Right, just got over to Adel and onto the second deck of the day. So this is a job that I priced up last year, but it's been on hold for a few months because the homeowner was getting the house repainted. And this is what we're dealing with. It's a softwood grooved deck and it's covered in brown decking stain. Now, decking stain is an absolutely terrible product and people always regret using it on their deck. It doesn't last very well and often within a few months it starts to peel off, as can be seen right here. We'll start work with a light pressure wash and then I'm going to apply a chemical stripper to get rid of this decking stain. Number 3, deal with any minor repairs. Number 4, sand the whole surface down. And number 5, apply a high quality decking oil. So get started with the pressure washing. Now you might be thinking, why don't I do the stripper first? Well, the reason being is that this decking stain stuff is so useless. A lot of it will often come off with pressure washing. So if I do that first, there'll be less work for the stripper to do. It doesn't always work out like that, but 9 times in 10, it does. And this is one of those 1 in 10 occasions where it doesn't come off easily. Well, as we can see, the decking stain is coming off. It's pretty well adhered though, and I'm having to go in quite hard with the fan on the pressure washer. Going in too aggressively with the pressure washer can be detrimental to decking and cause damage. It can cause the fibres of the wood to go furry, and that's not a good sign at all. However, I am going to be sanding this decking prior to oiling, so that's not something I'm concerned about. Well, that's the stage one finished, the pressure wash. It has been successful in getting quite a lot of the decking stain off. There are bits, however, which are fairly well stuck down still, but the stripper ought to take care of those. Now, the stripper I'm using is very caustic, so I will be gloved up and coated up and safety glasses as well. But I've got concerns about this newly painted render, so to prevent that getting damaged, I've got some old yard signs here made of plastic, this Correx stuff. I'm going to line the walls with that so that any splashing from the stripper doesn't get onto the paintwork. And the same for the trellis, because that's also been repainted recently. It quickly gets slippery underfoot. That's how you know the stripper's working. I found that the stripper doesn't take long to work, usually only about 15 or 20 minutes, so I'm going to leave this to dwell, during which time it'll really soften up the remaining decking stain that's on here. I'm then going to pressure wash it off. The thing about the stripper is that it's very caustic with a very high pH, and what that does is it draws all the tannins out of the wood and brings them to the surface. It makes the wood change colour, it goes quite dark in colour actually. Now, darkening the wood isn't what we want, it's not particularly attractive, so once I've pressure washed everything off, I'm then going to apply a neutralizer to restore the colour, and that will lighten and brighten the wood. So I'm just going to go slowly and deliberately down the full length of the boards. Right, we've got all of the decking stain removed now, but as mentioned earlier, the decking has gone very dark in colour, and that's because of these tannins being drawn to the surface by the caustic action of the stripper. Now we've got to force them back down, lighten and brighten the wood with the neutraliser. And this part of the process is like a magic trick. I'll do a bit of a side by side so you can see this in detail. Well, I think you'll agree that's been quite a transformation. Only 3 hours ago, this was covered in that thick, dark decking stain, peeling all over the place, looking a right mess. Look at it now, back to the wood, ready for sanding and oiling. You're probably wondering about the deck stripper, what is it and where do you get it from? Well, it's from Pure Seal Services called Deck Strip Pro. You'll find links down below, trade only. And back here in a few days' time, once this is all completely dried out, I'm going to sand it down first of all to really prepare it properly, and then I'm going to apply a high quality decking oil. Well, it's Saturday morning and I'm back in Adel, ready to sand and oil this deck. It's cleaned up beautifully now, it's all dried out. But there's a problem. When I got here, the decking was bone dry. I thought perfect, but the moment I stepped foot on the decking, water started splashing out of this hopper up here by the drain pipe. Obviously the homeowner's having a bath or a shower, and now the area all around the drain is wet through. The homeowner's not answering the phone, not answering the door, continuing on in the bathroom. Can't say I blame him really, but in the meantime the area is just getting wetter and wetter. I've got no alternative but to come back when it's completely dry, and without a doubt my morning has been completely wasted. I'm back on the job today and hoping for better luck with this splashing drain pipe. Now it turns out it's actually a separate flat upstairs and nothing to do with the homeowner. Good thing though, they've covered it with a tarpaulin so we don't have a repeat of that again this morning. Now, in readiness for the oiling, the next step is really important, and that's the sanding. And we can see in this area the chemical stripper's done a really good job at removing that old decking stain. But in this area here, it hasn't been quite as effective. But that's not a problem, the sanding will take care of those stubborn areas, and the whole point of doing the chemical strip in the first place was to make the sanding job easier. But the biggest reason for doing the sanding is to prepare the wood, to open up the grain and get it ready for absorbing all of that decking oil deep into the timber. At this stage of decking restoration, you need to have good weather. It's got to be really dry. Now the forecast was dry today, but there's one or two of these clouds that are just a little bit too grey for my liking. So what about tools for the sanding? Well, one of the most versatile tools is a random orbital sander. You can also use a belt sander if that's all you've got to hand. But the problem with these is that in the UK we have an awful lot of groove decking and these won't get into the grooves. If these are the only tools that you have, then sanding the top of the boards is better than not sanding at all. But really, we want to get into the grooves. So one of the best things you can do is get your hands on a brush sander. This is a trade quality product by Milwaukee. Couple of £100 these, but you can buy cheaper models imported from China off eBay and other places like it. These have got a drum with nylon bristles that are impregnated with a really good quality abrasive, and if you push down hard, these will get into the grooves and sand them out nicely. If you're like me though and you do an awful lot of decking restoration, it's well worth making a serious investment in the proper equipment. This is a power brush. It comes from Germany and it cost me about 6,000 quid. There aren't very many of these in the country. When I last spoke to the supplier, he said there were only 3 or 4 in use. Now just like that handheld brush sander, this machine also utilises a nylon abrasive brush, but it's rather bigger, rather heavier and rather more expensive. And as a matter of fact, a replacement brush costs about £400. That said, it's good enough for doing 15 or 20 decks before it's worn out. So averaged out per job, that's actually quite a low cost and a huge time saver. And the machine comes with a specially made 20 kilogram weight. That holds the machine down so that you get really good contact with the surface. Just about to get started and we've just had a little bit of rain. It literally lasted 2 minutes and now the sun's coming out straight away. The surface is ever so slightly damp. I'm going to leave it 20 minutes. This hot sun may dry it straight out. Let's see. Raindrops keep falling on my head. Well, it's been spitting for the last half an hour, but not getting damp enough so I could keep on with the sanding. The last 5 minutes though, it's getting a bit heavier and, well, I'm afraid rain is going to stop play. And we're back. Hopefully better luck today. And with the bulk of the area completed with the power brush, all that remains is to get into these corners with the hand tools and finish off the sanding. Random orbital sander. And lastly, I'm going to use a detail sander, a triangular one, for getting into those really tight corners. Right, that's the whole area sanded down now and it's looking really good. I'm just going to give the area a bit of a sweep. I'm thinking that rain may have stuck some of the sawdust down onto the board, so I'm going to free that up and then just clear it off with a leaf blower. So we're now on to the last part of the job, the application of the decking oil. All of the time put in so far has been all about preparation. We've got the initial cleaning, we've got the stripping of the old decking oil, we've got the sanding down. No repairs needed on this particular job, but a lot of time put into sanding, especially to get all of that decking oil out of the grooves. That brings us now to the last part of the job. So the decking oil that I'm going to be using is Expert Stain and Seal from Wood Care UK. I've been using Expert now for a couple of years and it's absolutely first class. It's low in VOCs, that's volatile organic compounds. That means it's safer to use and better for the environment. And unlike most rival products, this is what's called a penetrating decking oil. In other words, it's not a coating that sits on the surface. This soaks into the wood and really provides protection from the inside out. In this case, the homeowners decided to go for a natural finish, which has got a slight bit of pigment and gives it a nice sort of golden sort of colour. Now, because it's an American product, this is packaged in US gallons, not to be confused with our imperial gallons. This is slightly smaller, 3.8 litres to a US gallon. And for a deck of this size, I'm estimating that I'm going to need about 1.5 tins. Now, just in case these are from different batches with slightly different colour tint, I'm going to blend them together so it's uniform. Now, there's quite a high solid content in this oil, even more so for the darker colours. So what I'm going to do is pour some of it into the bucket and then give it a mix with a paddle stirrer, just to make sure that I've got all of the solids from the bottom of the tin. Now, quite often I use a big fat decking brush that allows me to do 2 boards at a time, but on this occasion I've decided to use a regular block brush. Get one of these that's got a handle in the bottom, and then that way you can easily fit it at the end of a Euro fitting pole or even an old broomstick. Now, I'm putting plenty of oil down, and the secret is to work it into the wood. And because the timber's been sanded, it literally acts like a sponge, just sucking the oil straight in. Right, that's that bit of the deck finished. Just got to do those infills and drain covers. We'll call it a day. Well, back in Ilkley to get this balau hardwood deck finished off. We've got 2 things to do. Firstly, we need to sand all of the surfaces, open up the grain, key the wood, make it really permeable and ready to accept the decking oil. Which brings us on to the second part, apply Expert Stain and Seal decking oil. I'm going to be going for a natural finish, which has just got a little bit of pigment. It'll just enrich the colours a little bit, really enhance the colour of the timber. All of which is dependent on the weather, and the forecast was going to be dry today, but now there's a little bit of a slight chance of that really light, wispy, misty rain. I'm hoping that's not going to spoil the party. My helper today is Henry, next door neighbour, and he's already made a start at the balcony with the random orbital sander. So whilst Henry's getting on with those awkward fiddly bits, I'm going to get on with the power brush and do the main deck area. Well, as for the decking oil, once again I'm going to be using Expert Stain and Seal from the USA. This is manufactured in Tennessee and it's imported into the UK by the distributors Wood Care UK. You'll find the links below. It's also available to buy from the Pure Seal Services website. It's a trade-only product and absolutely top drawer in terms of quality. I've switched over to using it all the time and I just wouldn't go back. It's available in a wide choice of finishes, and the suppliers will also kit you out with leaflets and point of sale material for discussing the product with customers. Unlike most products available in the UK, this is a penetrating oil. What's the difference, you might ask? Well, with most products, they're what we call film builders. So think of a coating that sits on top of the timber, a little bit like a varnish or a paint. And that provides a waterproof layer for a while at least. The trouble is, timber is always on the move, expansion, contraction, down to humidity and temperature. And that can stretch and actually crack these coatings. Once it starts to crack, water can get underneath the coating and that's when it starts to peel. And after even just a few months, they can start to deteriorate quite rapidly. So this is actually a bigger job than it looks, because as well as the deck and the balcony, the steps and this little pathway here, we've also got this planter. Doesn't look much on this side, but on this side, as viewed from the lawn, there's quite a large expanse of it.
Knackered timber and failed coatings put most homeowners and many professionals off decking work. In this special episode, Paul shows how to restore a wooden deck properly, step by step.